And we're live. Back, everybody. This is High Vibe Conversations. I'm your host, Shel Shapiro. With me today are Jenny Langren, Linda Vetrusnik, Tina Marie, our special guest of the day, Suzie Welstead. We are excited to have her here for this High Vibe conversation to talk about addiction drama. Before we get into it, I would like to do some housekeeping, as you know I like to do. I want to remind you that this is space. I invite you to share as we talk through our life lessons and hold space for you to work through yours as well. So what this means is whether you are live, watching us on replay, if at any point you feel like the conversation is resonating with you, you have more insights you want to share, you want to a particular experience you're or have experienced in the past, you can feel free to share with us in the comments. Or if you want a private message separately that we can continue the conversation with you later on, we'd be more than happy to have these conversations with you. In fact, we also invite you to join us individually for a high vibe conversation of your own. So again, if you feel like you want to have a conversation more private with one, here's where you can schedule and choose which one of us you'd like to continue that call with. If you are new to High Vibe Conversations and you want to hop on previous conversations, or you just don't want to miss when another one's coming up, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. YouTube.com, Shel Shapiro. And we'd love to, again, get these conversations going and have more of them with you. So we're excited that you're here. Susie's here today. Look forward to diving into this conversation. Suzie, thank you so much for being here with us today. Why don't you tell a little bit more who you are, what you do?
You're very welcome. Nice to be here. Okay, so I'm Suzie. I'm taking a break from everything, but I am an author, and I like people, conversations. So I like this kind of interaction. I've decided, I think I'm working life backwards, if that makes sense, meaning that I did a lot of rushing around, wanting to help and serve others. But then all of a sudden I ended up buying a dog and going a bit backwards and enjoy the walks and really tap into what I really want to do. So I'm in a really great position, do a bit of artwork, a bit of walking and just chill.
Sorry about that. Trying to fix my real quick. Well, we're excited to have you here. And we're excited to continue that conversation a bit. I know you were like we're doing things backwards, and there's no right way to do anything, right? So let's kick off this drama, shall we? And of course, I want to start with you, our special guest. Let's talk about what's coming up for you when we talk about drama. And anything to do with why you feel like you're doing things backwards sometimes?
I guess that addiction to drama is that how we all fall into those patterns of going backwards, meaning our focus tends to go to the past rather than where we are now. And they're the kind of things that I kind of talk about, because it's very easy for us. We live in such a distracted world where it's so easy to go backwards rather than forwards. But when I say I'm going backwards or I'm working backwards, it just means that, yeah, my book explains that I had a troubled childhood and it was very controlled. So I lived life in a very controlled, manipulative way. And I think they're the habits that kind of get in the way sometimes without even me being aware of it. So that's what I mean by my own drama. We all like a drama, don't we? But this drama is, and I can only speak for myself because I can only monitor myself, but yet I can share this and explain it to others, and maybe they get it, maybe they don't, you know?
Well, I certainly, I feel like I get it. I feel like we can all relate to that a bit. I was taking some notes. I was channeling my Sina over here to some note taking so that I didn't forget my thoughts too. It's easy sometimes to go backwards than it is to go forwards, and that really stuck out to me as you were saying that. Sometimes I feel like these conversations too, like actively through something like some of the things as we're having these conversations, and so it's just very
And it, and
discussion.
it's and it's quite easy, isn't it? Because I mean, I've appreciated this opportunity to come along and speak, which I love. But then seeing the different post, and what was shared about it, and I'm like, oh wow, yes, remember that. But then, come on, let's get back into reality. You're not there now, so it's very easy to just tread back and think, yeah, oh gosh, oh, well, and if you're not careful, your mind or whatever, you can go back into those scenes, into the no matter how, because I guess that was my foundation and my conditioning. So if I'm not aware of it, it's very easy to slip back in if I'm not on the ball and thinking, and that doesn't, it's not a big thing, but I believe I like to explain it this way, because then people understand it a lot better and they can relate to it so much more.
Yeah, and Suzie, like you had this horrible childhood abuse, and even like ran away, escaped at as a teen, and you found this beautiful man who completely just supported you, and you had these beautiful two boys who are just so wonderful, and you've just done such an exquisite job, and yet you were in the pattern of addictive drama, so you were literally attempting to sabotage that relationship. And I think that's such a powerful thing from your story, is that there, when we're addicted to drama, when there's been drama there, it's what that's the addiction part. It's just what it's what you go back to, it's what's comfortable, and it's all on that subconscious level. You don't even realize it. Was there a point when you did realize, all along, did you realize you were trying to sabotage the relationship, or did your husband point that out to you? Or I would love
Oh
to.
no. I thank you for that, because it's really important in one way that I had to own my own bullshit. I had to really own it, because I was actually in a great relationship, but things were tapping off in my own mind of that control and manipulation that I had as a child was running around in my head, and probably that's my behavior, but I hadn't realized I was behaving in that way. But it was through the work of working with others and helping others that I started to spot these behaviors and habits. And again, they can tap in at any time. If you're not aware, it doesn't mean that it's all gone and it goes away. You have to be very mindful of what you're doing. So I started to notice things like, we all want love, we all desire it, but I'm coming from a childhood that parents didn't even love me, they didn't even want me. So the reality for me, if I go in as the person, is, oh my gosh, I could still sit here as a victim and think nobody wanted me. I'm not loved, I'm not lovable. And I've had those patterns going round and round because of the chaos that I went through. And like you said, on a subconscious level, it can just attack you at any time. And you're like, whoa, where's this coming from? So you have to really touch on base. But what's so beautiful about even the book, even when I look back at it and I read bits of it, I always say there's some kind of superpower. Now, we all want a superpower, but the superpower we have is invisible. And that is the unconditional love that we are. Yet we miss that out because of the childhood. We start identifying with it so much, and we won't let go of it, believing that is us. Yet if you come into the now, it's full of abundance, it's full of love, it's full of all the good things if you allow it and you receive it. And that's a biggie. It's a big one for me at times. So it's just being on track. But the behaviors and habits, like my partner may suggest something and then I might think, oh no, I'll just bang it off, shut it, bang straight off, avoid it. I don't want that, And again, I have to look and think, wow, that must have been me as a child. So I can understand it now. Whereas before it was like, yeah, on the defense, I'm not having this, get rid, what the hell, So they're the kind of habits that I've seen in myself and I see play out. And then it's having that word with yourself in a gentle, nice way, because we can be our worst enemies. So, yeah.
I'm just gonna sit with that for another. We can be our worst enemies. That's so true. I know I buff up quite often for like having more expectations on myself and making things harder and perpetuating that cycle. And I could just be self-compassionate and have more love for myself and grace in those moments, and still the pattern of what try to break free from it. So thank you for just giving me that moment of clarity. Jenny, I'm coming over to you. What's coming up when we're talking about addiction to drama?
Listening to Suzie, I am brought back to a conversation I had with a client yesterday. And he also shares the experience of growing up with parents who does not show love or affection. And I'd say they were narcissistic foster parents. And the drama confusion is in sensing that something's off. I don't understand this behavior or this way of communicating with me, but because you're such a loving person yourself, you start going inward and you start internalizing and understand, what am I doing wrong? And that's so part of the addiction to the drama, to start shaming yourself or looking for flaws inside of yourself. And it's been a beautiful process of healing through our sessions for him to recognize that the love that he thought was always there was a reflection of himself that whole time. And like you say, Suzie, there's love in abundance. You are love. And such healing and recognizing what's on my side of the fence and where do I end and where does this other person begin, and just allow people to be accountable for their actions and play the leading roles in their lives so that we can get to know and trust and love ourselves. So that's something that came up. And also, I remember being in a very abusive marriage, being addicted to the stress of something always coming in from the side. And I'm a responder. So I will naturally, when something comes in out of the blue, I will respond. I will feel responsible to do something about it. And that's been part of my healing process, to recognize, and Linda and I've been over this so many times, the rule is I don't need to respond. There's such peace in that, and simply being and observing rather than responding. Thank you.
I've been noticing this week in conversations with my parents and other family members that like using a lot than I previously would have. I feel like I'm in that addiction to drama cycle right now and breaking free from it again. I actually told my dad as I was compartmentalizing stuff was that sometimes when you speak like this and you yourself up and you overcomplicate things, all I hear is an auction house going on in the back of my mind. Well, sounds like somebody and in this corner, and in this corner, and give me and that is literally what I hear in my head is a jumbled mess of how complicated, and it gives me anxiety. Could we simplify this? And so when I think about my addiction to drama, I think I have internal the overcomplications of things around me and have made things more complicated for myself to get out of just by the way that I turtle shell that moment. Like I can't see anything, react or do anything. I just freeze. And so when I hear you all about how you recognize these patterns and how you are trying to live in more abundance and recognize your own like abundance and reframe that mindset, this is how I've actually been doing that this week, because I feel in that cycle sometimes and perpetuating it and not being kind to myself, as I said before. For me, my patterning is guilt and shame. If I don't respond, if I don't do this, if I don't say yes, if I don't act accordingly, I will feel guilty because I fear something bad is going to happen if I don't act. My pattern is guilt and shame, and I put it on myself. It comes from other people where I learned it, but now I'm realizing it so much that like I'm recognizing it and figuring out how to break out turtle shells. Just hear the noise around me, and so that I can. The turtle shell is not a safe place. It is, but it's not a place that I want to stay. That's isolating. So I'm trying to very much have an abundant mindset, so that I don't feel like the world is closing in that off. So as I'm hearing you share, this is real world example for me right now, because I don't often share examples of I am going through this, I am navigating it, I am working through it on the other side, and I just learning from all. Suzie, so thank you for sharing about the way that you've done it for yourself. Jenny, thank you for sharing the way that you've done it yourself, and you've helped all of us to navigate these things. So thank you. And Stina, we haven't even gotten to your teaching yet, but I'm just going to learn much more. So I'm going to come over to you now. What's coming up when we talk about addiction to drama?
Thanks. I love the conversation about unconditional love in like woven into the drama cycle. I've been talking to a friend of mine a lot about this because she's in a situation where her relationship is really, or the breakup of a relationship is really bringing to light her beliefs about how lovable she is and how worthy of love she is. And I said, she's asking this question, like, why do I keep attracting these kind of relationships? And I really think that when we look at addiction to drama or attracting these things, we can put a lot of shame on ourselves about it, to be like, oh, it's all my fault. Or like we've all kind of said, that the desire to respond, the desire to fix, the desire to figure it out. Like there's just this need to like understand perfectly so that we can then perform perfectly and get a perfect result the next time, instead of being okay in the uncertainty and okay in things changing and being okay with like not understanding someone else, or just like letting them exist in their own chaos instead of like joining them in it. But I do think that whatever beliefs we hold about love, and I do think that they come from self-love. I don't entirely believe that you can't love someone else if you don't love yourself. I think that there are lots of people who don't love themselves who show a lot of love for other people. But I do think that if you have this core belief that when you make a mistake, it causes you to withdraw love from yourself. So I make a mistake. Now I deserve to be punished, ashamed, embarrassed, and you get this really harsh inner voice going that's going to come in and nag and yell, and that's internal drama. You're creating this internal, back and forth kind of dialogue. You're really harsh and you remove love because you made a mistake, then you will accept situations and relationships that reinforce that without thinking twice. Because in your internal world, love is conditional. You make it conditional by removing it when you make a mistake. So if you make mistakes and you learn to just soften that voice a little bit, and I've had to really work intentionally on practicing this, to have that parenting voice that is confident and soft and gentle and compassionate and says, this is hard. This sucks. Yep. You made the mistake. I see you. I hear you. Like, just having that acceptance in the moment, to not instantly go to what's the solution? How do I do it better? What do I need to figure out? What do I need to fix? And just being in that real kind of messy human experience actually diffuses the situation a lot and diffuses the drama when you have that compassion for yourself and that love for yourself. And then what that leads to is cutting off drama a lot sooner with other people in external, interactions, in relationships. We'll set those boundaries because we'll notice when someone else is withdrawing love. We'll notice when someone else is not behaving in integrity. We'll notice when, their words and their beliefs don't line up with the way that we operate. And so then we just don't engage with those people. I think there's we have this pressure. I kind of even see it developing, maybe it develops through school and childhood, where you throw a kid into a class of 30 kids. Well, they might not get along with any of those kids, or maybe one or two of those kids, right? Like, how often have you been thrown in a room of 30 of your peers and been like, all my best friends, love them all? Like, I don't think that's realistic, but we get this idea that we should be able to just get along with everyone, and that we should be able to just love everyone, but also like not really have any boundaries. Like, it should just be hunky dory. It's not. And there's 7 billion people on the planet. So you can choose to just not engage with someone, just not interact with them, not have a relationship with them, or change that relationship and the way you engage with it, so that it's easier to not be in drama, right? Like, we can have those hard limits and say, I'm not going to engage. I'm not going to reply to this email, or I'm not going to read this email, or I'm not going to, emotionally respond to this text message. And it takes a lot of inner work and a lot of self-security and self-love to be in a place where you can actually do that, actually let go, actually not ruminate, not keep thinking about it, repeating the drama over and over and over so it gets worse and worse as time goes on, and ultimately to say enough is enough. Like, I have to do that with myself in a very loving way. Wow, Stino, you're using a lot of creative energy on this. Enough is enough. Like, time to go do some painting, time to go take a walk, time to do some writing, to refocus. Because I think ultimately that's, for me, what drama does is it drains my creative energy. And it just, it takes so much like obsession to keep creating drama, when I could be obsessed with something that makes me so much more happier.
Thank you, Stina. I've watched you over the last few weeks create more art things that light you up, so that you've taken yourself out of the drama and the energy that was draining, and intentionally yourself into more creative spaces. And it's inspiring to watch. And I might actually now paint after this because I'm in so much. So thank you for sharing. And I love what you said about there's 7 billion people on the planet or more, whatever the number is. There might even be 7 billion people on LinkedIn. Who knows? Whatever the amount of people is, that we don't have to get along and react and relate to every single person. We get to keep our space sometimes, and be really, I don't want to use the word intentional, choosy about what we want to surround ourselves with. So thank you for adding that insight. I'm coming back to you. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add to our conversation on addiction to drama?
Oh, well, you all said a few things. One thing I think, was it Stina? You know, when we've had a background in abuse, I noticed with myself as well, you're always looking for a solution in your own mind. And that's what keeps us busy, because we're forever looking for a solution. We want to get to a solution before anybody else can help us. And I think that's that was coming up. There was something else that came up, but it went, and that's okay, because it is what it is, and this is the beauty of these conversations, because what comes up organically is good. But I have got to say that relationships can be very, very complex, and our job is to make sure we're okay with us. You know, that belonging that we all want is within us, not with anybody else. And we all want to change the world and change this and change that, yet nobody looking at themselves and changing, you know, what makes us feel the way it makes us feel. And emotions can be difficult for so many because we've not been taught. We've been conditioned when it comes to emotions. You know, we're not. We don't really know how to handle our emotions. Well, I never knew anything about emotions. You know, so as we get older, we're actually using our conditioning for the way we deal with a lot of things emotionally. We're not actually being here and now. And bringing awareness to this is very, very powerful. And I can't tell you how being aware, how powerful it is. A lot of things I do in silence now, but that doesn't mean my mind isn't going 10 to the dozen. It always does. Yet I know that, do I want to focus on my awareness, or do I want to go into the person that takes me to 10,000 different identities of who I think I am, you know? So that's a really good way of looking at things. And even when, you know, my boo might piss me off or something, the point is looking within myself and knowing what is it that's pissing me off, you know? What is it that's really annoying me? And do I want to go to it, or do I want to avoid it and go and grab some food, which becomes another addiction, or go to the pub and have a pint, and that's another addiction? Or do I want to go and gossip about it? Do I want to judge the whole thing? When really, you know, truth is here, truth is now, and that truth can become wisdom if we go into that state of just knowing that in the now, this awareness. You know, I'm always intrigued and curious about what the awareness wants to show me, or what the awareness wants to tell me, you know. And that doesn't mean I don't get into these shitty drama episodes, but I have to bring myself back into now. Do I want to continue with the drama, or do I want to check out the awareness of what that is saying?
Susie, you brought up such a great point about being the first one to figure it out. And is that because the person that was supposed to figure that out for you, a parent, right? Is that because it's not safe when they do? So you have to do, like, where is that coming from? That was, I mean, that's so true and such an interesting concept.
It is about feeling safe. You know, for so many years, I did so many jobs without working on myself, and I was chaos. You know, I'm trying to help people in suicide, in domestic violence, in mental health, when I didn't really check in my own mental health because I believe so much in the now. But because I was believing so much in the now, I wasn't really believing that there was any awareness in what I was doing. The awareness makes a huge difference, and it's just like I had to keep standing back and not even wanting to get into it. I just had this need to want to serve others, to help them, but I wasn't saving myself doing that. You know, I was there for everybody else and everybody's need, and it was that whole thing. You know, lately when I do things, I'm the happiness coach that lost a mojo, because I seriously was. I lost my mojo. I had this compassionate fatigue where I was sick and tired of wanting to be there for others when I couldn't reach out to myself. You know, and we have to watch out for that fatigue, because sometimes it's just that you get so fed up. It doesn't mean that I can't say hello and be kind to others. It was just that I was really racked off because it was something that I needed. And it's something we trip up on because it's so, you know, it was relevant for my own development, for my own growth and expansion. The only way you can deal with that is get into those, you know, uncomfortable moments without being numb about it and avoiding it, but going into it.
What I was noticing as you were sharing, Susie, about the need, like you had to everybody else's first, and as well as your own. Um, for me, it's not, I've always felt I needed to solve the problem first, but that so many other people were relying on me to solve the problem for them. Um, I've found frustration over the years in that I've wanted other people to show me the way, to lead the way, to be the ones to guide me. And when that's short, then I immediately pick up the slack, because not just for myself, but for other people too. But I really feel like, hey, not being first in line to solve the problem. I'll iterate it. I'll find what they're doing and make changes to it and improve it. But I almost prefer to never be the first person to have to come up with the answer. And so it's just interesting that when I hear you talk about how like you felt that need to fix it, as so many of us do, and to jump in for yourself and for others, I hear myself saying, I don't want that. I don't want that, but I recognize where I did it. I recognize where I did it and why I did it.
I guess for me, my background in that would be as a child living in domestic violence, and having other siblings. My role as a child was probably to make everybody happy, and I didn't know how to do it as a child, you know, trying to make sure the dinners and everything was cooked and everything was prepared. So, and then I don't want nobody coming to me and judging me or criticizing me, because as a child I didn't have those skills. Yeah, I made it part of myself for so long to just be there for others and keep betraying myself. You know, I didn't know no other way apart from betraying myself. Or then, like Stina mentioned, the mental chatter was diabolical. You wouldn't speak to anybody the way you speak to yourself inside your head, you know. But again, the awareness has taught me that that's not me. That self-talk's not me. This is me right here, right now, you know. So I think the happiness where I got really tripped up on was that believing as a child that you've got to make everybody happy, and then when you're having a shit day, which we all have a shit day, I'm trying to really fix it, find the solution to fixing it, because no, I'm not supposed to be like that. I'm supposed to be some kind of superhero from another mother. You know, I don't know. It was just the way I lived. And it's not until you can start observing with that reflection in many years after, not at the time, or, you know, like when you've done so many things and you can reflect back. I think the reflection now becomes that pearl of wisdom, that kind of magic that can really support others. Not that I'm looking to support others now.
Yeah.
I'm in a different space now. It's like, you know, I'm important. I matter. I'll go and do what I want to do, and not have, because again, we still wait for that approval, that permission. You know, doesn't matter how old you are. Sometimes we're still looking for it, especially when you come from an abusive background.
Right. Suzie, did you ever get caught into the decision thing where you weren't making decisions, you were literally having other people make decisions? That's what I'm noticing a lot of times with especially clients, not that, like the addiction to drama part is about deferring decisions to others super unconsciously, but it is a thing. Did you ever struggle with that?
That's fantastic, Linda, because I think all my life I've never really wanted to take risks because I'm afraid of that decision that I'm going to make. Can I really trust myself? Really trust myself? You know, can I really, do I know that that's going to work? Or if it's going to fall flat and it's a mistake, it's all my fault? You know, but again, we have to be aware of all these patterns, and decisions were big because you don't want to make a decision. You actually, I think really, you didn't actually want to shine. Even if it was a good decision, you don't want to shine because you're afraid of the backlash you're going to get, or, you know. And we have to remember that our minds, our brains are formed from 0 to 7, 8. You know, it's all that subconscious stuff, and it's set, and that's what becomes unconscious guilt, I believe, that we all suffer from on a day-to-day basis. You know, it's there.
Well, children are schizophrenic until they're like 7, and then our brains don't fully form till like minimum age 25. There's ADHD that they're usually about 3 years behind. So some people even say 30. It's just really interesting. Stina, did you want to speak to the that decision? I know you've spoken to that before with us.
Deferring decisions. I didn't have anything I have all kinds of things coming up. So I'm like, okay, wait, rewind to the question.
Go for it. What came up?
Yeah. I mean, what Suzie was saying, I think was so accurate, like deferring the decision because you don't trust yourself. And I think that goes back to the conditional love for yourself. Why are you afraid to make the mistake? Why are you afraid to fail? Because then I won't love myself. Like then love will be withdrawn, you know. And this morning, my therapist said, learned hopefulness. She said, you have a learned hopefulness. And I was like, ooh, I really like that. And in this conversation, I'm thinking about learned love, because as children, we have to remember that as children, we simply intake, we absorb, and we make the best sense of the world that we can. We don't know what's up. We're just absorbing it from all the people around us. So when we are in a family, we assume that this is love. Whatever is presented to us, we're like, this is the way love works. And if it's violent, then love is violent. If it's conditional, then love is conditional. If it's performative, then love is performative. Like, we don't have this concept of right and wrong love, or, you know, like correct or incorrect, like real or not real. We just take it as it is, like package deal. That's what love is. And then I think that carries with us until we have a contrasting experience, or someone says, you know, you're really hard on yourself when you make a mistake. And you're like, what do you mean I'm hard on myself? This is the way it works. This is the way the world treats you when you make a mistake. And for somebody to say, no, you get to make a mistake and you get to get up and try again, you know, and it doesn't mean that you're a failure. Like that simple kind of reframing, when that starts to happen, is what starts to have us look at our childhood and go, oh, maybe there were some things that were really messed up there. So I think that, yeah, it's interesting how all of these things just tie back together. And I think it's really important also just to say that creating self-security and self-love isn't something you have to do alone. So there's a difference between like the codependent, I'm sourcing things from other people, which is, I think, what creates the drama, because we feel like our needs aren't getting met. We feel like we're not seen and heard and understood. And we, you know, that like we feed into that, like needing to be the first one to solve the problem. Like you were saying, we need to be the one to solve it. Why? Because we're certain no one else is going to. Our parents didn't. So now it's on us. And what I do in my parenting is like, I want to join together with my kid to solve the problem together. I don't want to have the answer either. I don't want them to look to me and think mom knows what's right, so I'll listen to mom. I don't think that that's helpful, just as much as like the parent not having an answer at all. Like neither extreme is best. It's best if we can join together and empower ourselves while we empower our child, so that as they grow up, they have those interdependent relationships and relationships where they can integrate the love, or the logic and emotion, right? Like Linda, when you talk about right brain, left brain integration, like that's where you get that, okay, I can have my feelings, I can feel my feelings, and I can filter it a little bit through a logical filter, which can diffuse a lot of like big emotion. So there's this dance between that and this communal effort and this connection, and like security in relationships that does really matter. And I think that we can create that so much more powerfully when, like you said, Suzie, you're doing what you want. You're doing what lights you up. And like Shell was like, Stina, I see you creating all this art. That's really inspiring me. Now I want to create art. I did that for me. I didn't do that for anybody. I did it for me. I shared it. Hey, look what I'm doing. You know, I'm not out there like preaching to anybody. I'm just preaching to myself, living my life, and like letting other people see me shine in a really authentic way. Because it feels good, because I want to, not because somebody said, go get good at painting, and then, you know, tell other people how to get good at painting. It was like, feel good painting, and other people will want to feel good painting too. Like it's like a contagious thing. And I think that's like I think maybe that's the opposite of drama. Drama is like this inner like inflammation. And then when we get aligned with ourselves and we're authentic and we're doing what we want, we're lit up, then it's contagious to other people. And then that's what connects us. Like how much more powerful to connect with other people who also are secure and loving and generous and taking care of themselves. So, yeah.
And you brought up the logic, and then I was like, oh yeah, and humor. And I know Stina and I have tons of conversations about absurd therapy. You know, so it's not self-deprecating humor I was thinking of, but yeah, so adding in humor in almost an absurd way. And I know in our conversations with all of you, you know, I've gone into absurd humor. And it really shifts the brain super fast, and people walk away feeling good.
Did walk away feeling good. I'm gonna leave it with that because I think that's a brilliant place to wrap up. Because look, at the end of the day, we're all in charge of our own happiness. It's not for us to perpetuate somebody else's drama and cycle. And as Jenny says, knowing where we end and where somebody else begins is really important. As I think it's, although I consider myself an artist and a creative, and am inspired to paint. Like, I think it's less about the painting, but like seeing you in your joy and creating that happiness for yourself. That's inspiring me to be like, yes, let's go find some happiness for me too. Like, what can I do to be more happy? So it's less about the actual thing and more about just watching you shine in whatever it is that you're doing. That's the contagion for me. What I want for everybody. So yes, I think that's a good place to wrap up for today. Suzie, so much for joining us for this high vibe conversation. I want to give you the opportunity now. Let people know, where can they find you if they want to connect, learn more, what you do, have a conversation. Where can they find you?
I am on Facebook and LinkedIn at present, so you're very welcome to add me. Like I said, I'm taking a break, but I'm happy to have conversations and get on with others. You know, any questions, anything. It's nice to connect. It's nice to communicate. It's nice to let people know they're not on their own. You know, and and we can have plenty of laughs as well.
Can we find you on YouTube with the podcast?
Yeah, I did start. I start and then stop. So that's me
I
at
think
the minute.
my partner put something up on. Was it she on YouTube or did she put it up on Anchor?
YouTube, I guess. It was keeping it
Your
real.
friend, your business partner, or
Yeah.
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 On YouTube?
Yes,
Okay.
keeping it real on YouTube. Yeah.
Keeping it real on YouTube. Okay, because those are great conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it's been very great to have me here. So thank you so much to you all.
Yeah. So for anybody who's interested, please go connect with Suzie on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Check her out on YouTube to see what she's up to, her podcast. And if you're interested in having or joining more of our high vibe conversations, please feel free to book in those one calls with us if that's something you're interested in doing and having a conversation with one of us more privately, or if you're just here for the conversation, the good vibe, or to subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Shel Shapiro. And until next time, we will say bye for now.
Bye.